Today we're going to be looking at Lesson 12, Properties of Inequalities, and we're on page 112 of your folder. So as we're looking at this example 1, notice the word preserves, and I'd like you to circle that or highlight that because that's a key word for us to remember. And the word preserves means that the inequality sign or symbol stays the same. So the inequality symbol stays the same. And we're going to look at exactly what that means and kind of dig into that a little bit more. And so if preserve means that the inequality symbol stays the same, what does it mean to reverse it? Think of a car. If I'm going forward and I reverse it, what direction? So here, the inequality symbol actually switches. And that means that the greater than sign becomes or changes to less than. And the less than sign changes to greater than. So that's what switches means. And we're going to take a look at when does this happen and see if we can develop a rule or an idea of when do we preserve the inequality symbol and when do we reverse the inequality symbol. I'm going to write the word changes right there just so we know what that means. So we're going to take a look down here at this first one, and we're just kind of going to do some investigating, put on our math investigative hats. And it's supposed to be a die game, but since we're not together in person doing this, we'll take a look at it here. If you take a look at this first one, I have the number -3 and the number 5. And obviously, -3 is less than, for those of you who keeps forgetting, is less than 5. Now what I want us to do is add 2 to both sides of this inequality. So it becomes -3 plus 2 is less than 5 plus 2. And we're going to check and see if that's correct. -3 plus 2 is -1. 5 plus 2 is 7. -1 is less than 7. So there, notice that my inequality symbol stayed the same, therefore it was preserved. I'm going to highlight that again. Okay, let's try another. So we'll just use the numbers 2 and 4. And before we do anything, we have to decide on our inequality. So what inequality will make this true? 2 is less than 4. And we're going to add a -3 to both sides of this inequality. So 2 plus -3, keeping our sign, is less than 4 plus -3. 2 plus -3 is actually equal to -1. Is less than, and 4 plus -3 is equal to +1. And we see here that it is actually true. Therefore, did I preserve my inequality symbol or did I reverse it? We preserved it. I'm going to actually give you three sets of numbers. I'm going to let you pause the video and you're going to follow those exact same steps and procedures that we just did. And then we're going to come back together and compare. So on your paper, if you will write the number 6 and the number -2, then -1 and -5, and finally 4 and 3. So again, I'd like you to fill in the inequalities. Then I want you to do the new inequality by following this direction right here, this operation. Decide if it is preserved or if it is reversed. And when you're done, come back. Okay, we're back. And did you identify that 6 is greater than -2? And when I completed the operation of subtracting 2, did you notice that -2 minus 2 is a -4? Remember, you can always add. You're combining these, which gives a -4. And this is true and preserved. -1 is greater than -5. Always think about it. Would it be better to owe $1 or better to owe $5? Obviously, this would be a better scenario. And again, subtracting. So -2 is actually greater than -6 because it is closer to 0. And preserved. 4 is greater than 3. And again, we preserved our inequality symbol. So examine the results and make a statement about what you notice. So let's take a look at the operations that are occurring here. What operations were we using? That's correct, addition and subtraction. So hopefully you were able to come up with an observation here that if you add or subtract, it preserves the inequality symbol. So in other words, nothing changes if I am adding or subtracting. If all I did was add and subtract, then I preserve the inequality symbol. So let's move to the next page here. And -3 is less than 4. And we want to multiply this time, sorry about that, by -1. -1 times -3 is less than -1 times 4. Well, I want you to notice what has happened right here. Look right here. What did we have to do to our sign? Because 3 is not less than -4. So we had to reverse our sign. Okay, let's try another one. 5 and 2. First off, is 5, it is greater than. So 5 times -1 is greater than 2 times -1. So -5 and -2. Is -5 greater than -2? It is not. So what are you noticing about your sign? Again, it had to be reversed. Start thinking about making a statement about what you're noticing and what the evidence is proving. So I've got a few more for you to try, just like we did previously. Again, doing the operation of multiplying by a -1. So if you'll pause the video and come back in just a second, we'll be ready to continue. Okay, let's take a look. Did you see a pattern here? Every time, take a second and compare yours to mine. And what did you come up with as a statement that this evidence is supporting? Did you find that when you multiply by a -1, it reverses the inequality symbol? If not, that's definitely what we are looking for. And then let's continue on to the next one. Okay, again, we have another game using multiplication, and it's different numbers and division. So noticing we're multiplying and dividing. -2 is greater than -4. Again, we're showing that work of -2 times a half is -1, because half of -2 is -1. And -4 times 1/2 is -2. And that is preserved. So taking a look at my next numbers, I'm going to let you continue with this pattern. If you'll copy these numbers down, I'm going to let you complete. Now the operation is changing this time, so be very cautious. Look at those operations, find those inequalities, prove it here, and go ahead and come up with a statement supported by the evidence. Come back when you're done. All right, we're back. Now take a second and verify your answers. If you need to pause the video to do so, you can. I hope you remember that when you're dividing with a fraction, it means you're multiplying by the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse. Did you notice that when you were multiplying and dividing, that they were all preserved? So hopefully you were able to figure out that multiplying or dividing by a positive number preserves the inequality symbol. So we're going to move on now to our next page. Again, we're kind of doing some investigative work. And this is our last chart like this. 3 is greater than -2. So I am multiplying by -2. Notice again that these are changing. Are you noticing that these are all, well, just pay attention to that. So 3 times -2 is greater than -2 times -2. Oh, let's take a look here. What has happened? We have reversed. So I want you to work through the rest of these and again, see if you can come up with a statement that explains what's occurring inside of each of these. You can copy these numbers down. Remember to fill in the inequality signs and to show all of your work. And then come back when you are done. Okay, we're back. And again, applying those integer rules of a positive times a negative is a negative times a negative is a positive. If you have to go back and reference your triangles, 2 negatives and a positive or all positives. Did you come up with the same outcomes? If you need to pause the video and double check every single one, you can. This one could be a little tricky, so you have to work it all the way through. All right. Now, what did you find as an outcome? Did you identify that multiplying and dividing by a negative number reverses the inequality sign? So let's go back to our very, very first page where we had the lesson introduction and it talked about preserving the inequality sign. Did we find out when it's preserved? Hopefully you notice that you preserve it when you add or subtract. And also when you multiply or divide with positives. So that's a key piece of that. And then reverses is the switching when you multiply or divide with a negative number. I'm going to let you come back on another video and we're just going to practice a few random ones together and kind of complete this real quickly. I'll see you back in part 2.